is an extreme sport that doesn't require physical prowess, it doesn't require special equipment, and it doesn't even require an intimidating outdoor location. That extreme sport is public speaking. You know, that thing that makes your heart race, your mouth go dry, your hands go sweaty, and it might give you a lot of sleepless nights. I know one person in this room who is into an extreme sport. His name is Robert Curtis, and he has been flying helicopters in wartime and peacetime for a long time. In his book, he talks about what that's like. Well, public speaking for a lot of people is like that at first. If you are more afraid of speaking to your fellow humans than death, you're not alone. Apparently, it is the thing that most people fear more than anything else. But there actually is help, and the help is in the form of an international nonprofit organization called Toastmasters. We're not just little separate clubs all over the place doing their own little separate thing. It is an established program that's been proven to help people, and it's been doing that for over 90 years for people all over the world. So it's multilingual. There are programs in all different languages of the world, and there are certifications that you can obtain in 2 different tracks: competent communication and competent leadership. When you complete one track, you can go on to another track. I also want to say that our clubs, yes, you can learn the gift of gab. You can learn how to be more comfortable in social situations, but you can also learn a lot of career-oriented skills in communication and leadership. And once you get certifications in these 2 tracks, won't they look good on a resume or on LinkedIn? So our clubs are also what I consider to be the most dangerous clubs around. Why? Because Toastmasters walks its members out to a cliff, and then it asks them to jump off and fly, and you have no helicopter. So the first speech or 2 might be intimidating for a lot of people, but by the time our members get to speech number 3 or speech number 4, they are usually already beginning to enjoy the extreme sport of public speaking. I can tell you that people join for a lot of different reasons. Some people join because they have issues with maybe listening or with attention or with speaking in general. Things like ADD, stuttering, or perhaps English as a second language. There are a lot of people doing Toastmasters for that reason. But some people need to overcome an extreme fear of speaking. They need to overcome the shyness that they feel, and Toastmasters is definitely there for them. I remember the first person I met from my Toastmasters club here in Exeter was a person who told me that she joined when her father died, and she had written up a eulogy, but then she was too terrified to deliver it. She decided at that point she needed to overcome her fear, and she did. Today, she is one of the smoothest, most polished speakers that I have ever met. When you receive one certification, you can go on to different levels. This is only the first of a long sequence, so we are lifetime learners in Toastmasters. You can go on to silver, bronze, and gold levels in these manuals. You get new manuals every time you go on to a new level. There also are speech competitions at club, area, division, district, and international levels. So there is something for everyone in Toastmasters. This might sound very complicated or time-consuming, but I can assure you that it is go at your own pace. That's the beauty of it. If you had to spend a certain amount of time with Toastmasters, a lot of people just simply wouldn't do it. You can go at your own pace. You can do speeches when you're ready. Visitors always welcome to sit, listen, observe, and perhaps not speak at all other than a brief introduction. So I am Marina Kirsch from the Exeter Club. This is Jonathan Bohm, president of the Portsmouth Club. Our club meets first and third Wednesday of every month at the Ridge community of Riverwoods Retirement Center, and it's only about less than $50 for 6 months worth of membership. I can tell you that with Toastmasters, once you engage in this extreme sport of public speaking, you'll find that you'll become more effective at anything that you undertake. And now I'd like to introduce Jonathan Bohm, president of the Portsmouth Club.
Good afternoon, everyone. Portsmouth Club, I'm noticing the Exeter Chamber of Commerce sign there that they just celebrated their 55th anniversary, 1959. That's the same as the Portsmouth Club, which was originally started at the shipyard in Portsmouth. And if you come to one of our meetings, you'll see our now antique timing light, which is in the shape of a submarine. Everything Marina has said here is true, and I can't add too much to that. Our Portsmouth Club meets on the first and third Thursdays at the community campus, which is perhaps a little hard to find, so if you're interested in that, I refer you to our website, where we give some very clear directions to an unclear location. And I hope that some of you will, if you find that the Portsmouth location is more convenient for you, either in terms of time or place, please stop in and give us a try. I'd also like to mention that we are having what we call Speechcraft starting on the 4th Wednesday of April. That's April 29th, and running for 3 more Wednesdays. So it's a total of 4 Wednesday evenings, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock p.m. at the Portsmouth Public Library. This is a speech, what would we call it, Mark? A boot camp, yes. And in the 4 weeks, you will actually progress through the first 3 speeches of the 10 in the initial manual. It's a fabulous program. This is the 3rd time that we've run it. It's very high energy. There's a lot of fun, and I really encourage people to give this a try. Like I said, you'll get through your first 3 speeches. It's virtually free. There's a nominal cost for a booklet of your manual. So that's starting April 29th at 6 p.m. at the Portsmouth Public Library. And if you have more questions, please feel free to ask me or our Vice President Membership, Mark Mortensen, who is running the Speechcraft program. With that, I'd like to move on with starting our mock meeting here. And if this were a typical Toastmasters meeting, the club president would have introduced me as the Toastmaster of the day here. And I just want to warn you on one thing that may seem a little bit strange, is that we do a lot of clapping in Toastmasters. So every time somebody comes up, we clap, and every time somebody sits down, we clap. Helps keep us awake. So first, I'd like to start with our Toastmasters here, starting with the Exeter Club, and I'm going to ask each of the members, and then going over to Portsmouth Club, to introduce themselves, tell us just a little bit about themselves, where they live, how long they've been a Toastmaster, and then the most important skill that they have gained from Toastmasters.
Hello, everybody. My name is Elena Soriello. I am a certified hypnotherapist, and I have an office right here in Exeter, so I am a member of the chamber as well.
Can you use the microphone?
Hello, everybody. My name is Elena Soriello. I am a certified hypnotherapist. I have an office right here in Exeter on Water Street, so I am a member of the chamber, just like you are. I joined the Toastmasters in January of this year, so I'm fairly new. But I enjoy talking. I enjoy talking to people. But as you can all hear, English is my second language. So at Toastmasters, the greatest benefit to me is to increasing my vocabulary and mastering the grammar and learning what to do during a speech and what not to do during a speech, and how to organize my speech and how to be more comfortable. And that is so so provided in there with the greatest support of all the members.
Hello, everybody. I'm Rachel Sanchez. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. I do live in New Hampshire. I live in Danville. I've been with Toastmasters for the same amount of time that Elena has been, just a few months. And the greatest value that I've gotten so far with Toastmasters is working on finding my words. I have a lot going on in my brain, but sometimes it's hard to get it out of my mouth in a way that I want it to. So this is one of the values that I've so far already been experiencing. Thank you.
I'm Marina Kirsch. I'm president of the Exeter Speak Ups chapter. I live in Kensington. I'm a graphic designer and author when I'm not doing Toastmasters stuff, which lately hasn't been too often. I think that the main skill I've learned is to be more confident when all kinds of things are coming at me at once, including maybe needing to do something impromptu or something unexpected come up. I can now deal with it with a lot more confidence and poise.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark Mortensen. I'm actually a PhD physicist, worked at Bell Labs for 20 years, now in software like everybody else. What I do for a living, I work for a British company doing something that only, I believe, Paul would care about. It's in telecom. But more importantly, I actually do teach also at UMass Lowell in the business school, and often I will teach public speaking and business communications. I'm the vice president of membership of the Portsmouth Club also. I actually started my career in Toastmasters over 50 years ago. I was 10 years old when I took a public speaking class sponsored by Toastmasters. Then joined later on, did it for about 7 years, got pretty good, got really busy, and came back just about 5 years ago. In between time, I estimate I've given about 5,000 formal business presentations. It'll be 5,001 as of today when I give you the one about how to create a speech.
Hello, my name is Jill Ripley, and I'm Area 10 Governor of 5 other Toastmasters that are in our area. International Toastmasters is working to change the language of different aspects of titles, and so there's going to be a number of big changes coming up. Any area governor will be called area director. I have been a member of Toastmasters I'm going into my 8th year. I think I belong to Portsmouth Club, and I've held several offices in the club. I think as you age in your life, you try to keep your skills current because you never know what's around the corner for you. I particularly wanted to win a contest. I wanted to see if I could go back into that atmosphere and take a contest. I've never, in my own club, I've placed first, but in the division, I only got up to second and never made it up into international. But it's a challenge, and you get a wonderful trophy that you can put up in your office, and everybody's going to ask you about it. I enjoy Toastmasters very much, and I have met some wonderful friends.
The first item on our agenda is in fact going to be presented again by Jill, and that is the role of joke master. And we like to start our meetings out with a little bit of humor, kind of warms the audience up and reminds us that although we may all be very nervous, not to take it too seriously. Jill.
Bubba. Bubba had a house fire and he lost his life. So the funeral director asked his friends to come in and identify him. So his first friend came in. The undertaker folded down the sheet. His friend shook his head and said, "No, that's not Bubba, but roll him over." So he rolled him over. He said, nope, nope, that's not Bubba. Second friend came in. Funeral director did the same thing. Rolled down the sheet. Friend said, that's not Bubba, but roll him over. He rolled him over. Nope, that's not Bubba. Funeral director was mystified. This was their best friend. How come he couldn't identify him? He said, tell me, why don't you recognize your own friend? He says, well, I'll tell you, it's like this. Whenever we were out and about with Bubba, everybody said, here comes Bubba with those two a-holes.
Thank you, Joe. Our next speaker is Rachel Sanchez, who will be word master for the day. And the word master introduces the word of the day, which we use to help us increase our vocabularies. Rachel.
I really enjoy this section of Toastmasters because it helps me to consciously build my vocabulary. So our word today is pellucid. It's an adjective. When used to describe an object, it means to allow the maximum amount of light to shine through, like a clear glass window or a clear glass of water. When it's used in conjunction with a context, a pellucid context means that it's easy to understand, it's clear in meaning, expression, or style. I'll give you an example. Our leader's pellucid instruction and encouraging tone was the distinct inspirational force propelling us to ace our presentation to the chamber. Thank you.
And I'm going to ask Rachel to come back and give us an inspirational quote for the day. Rachel.
We've all had different reasons why we like Toastmaster, and it evolves around speaking publicly. But when you think about speech, it's something we do, some of us, all day, nearly every day. So I found this quote that has an impact, I think, on speaking. Speech is power. Speech is to persuade, to convert, to compel. It is to bring another out of his bad sense into your good sense. That's from Ralph Waldo Emerson. Thank you.
The way it works in Toastmasters is that you give a speech and then someone evaluates it. And these speeches all have a certain number of goals and objectives assigned to them if they're coming from one of the manuals. So I will introduce now our first evaluator for our first speaker, and that is Marina Kirsch.
Did I bring my glasses? Yes, I did. So the objectives for Elena's speech are from the Competent Communicator Manual. The speech she'll be giving is her icebreaker speech, which is actually the first speech that most people give. The objectives are to begin speaking before an audience, to discover speaking skills you already have and skills that need some attention. And her speech is supposed to be 4 to 6 minutes.
It was in the mid-November of 2006, one of those cold, gray, rainy days you wish you can just crawl back in the bed. And on that day, just like any other work day, I arrived at my client's house just a few minutes shy of 8:30. I walked into the house and I found Barbara, as usual, sitting in her comfy chair watching the ABC News. she turned towards me and smiled. And I don't know what it ever was, the calmness and maturity in her eyes, the beautiful wrinkly face, the camo hat, but I always smiled back with this warm feeling in my heart. She was a petite woman on the outside, but one of the most amazing and greatest on the inside. She was a woman of few words, but when she spoke, people listened. And on that cold, gray, rainy day, Barbara and I went to a local corner store where she likes to purchase her Diet Pepsi. We walked into the store and I just wandered around, waited for her to make her purchase. But on that day, she walked up to me and said, "Get drink." I asked no questions. I did what I was told. And as we walking out the store, Barbara went directly to this patio type table. You know what I mean? For some reason, in the middle of November, there still was a patio type table in front of the store. And as we sat down on these cold, wet, metal chairs in front of a village store, pretty much on the side of a road with cars just driving by and splashing all the slush and mud towards us, I looked at Barbara, and she sat there with her drink, and she looked so happy and peaceful. And she looked at me sitting there puzzled with my water, and with a joy on her face, she said, "Look." And in that moment, I could see what she could see. In that moment, nothing mattered. The cold, the rain, the work, my worries, not even her pain and her cancer. Nothing mattered more than that we had that moment. And in that moment, the sunshine, the rainbows, the butterflies came out and called me crazy. I could see it and I could feel it. In that moment, I realized how important it is that we have these little moments with the people we love. So when we lost Barbara a couple months later, and she went on her journey with free of pain and with people she once lost before, I always carried her in my heart. And for the rest of my life, I will do my best to carry on her legacy through my work and through what I do. So when the theme of today's speech was to introduce myself and tell you who I am, I believe that telling you Barbara's story can tell you more about me than any list of facts can ever do. I've worked with people my whole life. I supported them, helped them to achieve their goals no matter how small or big they look to others. So who am I? I'm still working on all the details. But I can tell you one thing. Money does not matter to me. Money to me is a necessity which should be used to help others. Money does not matter to me, and you cannot impress me with a fancy stuff and beautiful belongings. But if you are that type of a person who's going to take extra time and go out of their way to make somebody smile, to have somebody to see the rainbows, the sunshine, the butterflies on a cold, rainy November day, then you are a person who gets my attention, who gets my respect. Because I believe in people who do the right things for the right reasons. And that's who I am.
Thank you, Elena. Our second speaker is Mark Mortensen, and he is going to give us a speech on how to write a speech, which is one of the most critical things that we come to in Toastmasters. Mark?
Thank you, Jonathan. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and Exeter Chamber of Commerce and guests. Giving a speech is hard. I'm not going to talk about a lot of the advanced things you learn in Toastmasters, about how to segment the audience, about how to look in every person's eyes for about 2 seconds, such that they feel like you've talked to them personally. I'm not going to talk to you about gestures. I'm not going to talk to you about the way you use voice and the way you can do it loud and gather the attention, or you can do it soft and even get more attention sometime. I'm not going to talk about any of those things. I want to talk about something really basic here right now, which is how do you figure out what to give a speech? How do you plan it? Now, we all have our different techniques, and by the way, if you have a technique that works for you, use it. I used to have a technique of just putting it all in my head and taking a walk, and when I was finished with the walk, I would have the speech in my head, and it would be all in my head. My record was 7 hours taking a walk, however, for a speech. I don't recommend this necessarily. But what I do have, I've been able to develop really over the years a formula. So this is something to fall back on. So if you ever are going to have to give a speech and you sit there, has this ever happened to you, with a piece of paper and you write Roman numeral 1 and you don't know what else to do? I want to show you what to do. Okay, it's a very simple several-step thing. The first thing is to break through that problem of trying to say, what am I going to talk about? Oh, you have to have a topic. Don't get me wrong. You have to have a topic, some kind of topic. And then what you do is you do a scattergram. You take a crumpled piece of paper, not a nice piece of paper. You take an old pencil or pen, and you just start writing stuff down having to do with it. It doesn't matter. It could be pictures. It could be words. You don't worry about whether it's complete. You don't worry about whether it's right. You don't worry about whether it's wrong. You just write down stuff having to do with the topic that you want to talk about. The facts, the figures. In this case, I have a little drawing here. I have a piece of string over here that I drew and said the string has a beginning and a middle and an end. Maybe I can use that in the speech. You just get it down. Why? Because you want to get it out of your head and out onto something. So scattergram is the first thing you do. Next thing, I don't know if you've ever used this technique. The next step is a mind map. Anybody use mind maps here? If you've never used it, by the way, it's an excellent method for planning anything, a talk, a trip, almost anything. You basically start with your scattergram, and now you start organizing the information. So you put down your central idea. So I wrote down here, planning a talk. And I said, okay, I'm going to have to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to have to talk about the process of planning a talk. And it's research, scattergram, mind map, outline, etc., the structure of the talks, the progress. You start taking those things from the scattergram and you start organizing them. Now at this point, your brain is starting to operate differently. You're filling in the holes. You didn't worry about putting everything in the scattergram. Now you're thinking about the holes. You're thinking about the structure. You're thinking about how it maybe is going to fit all together. And it's starting to make sense a little bit. Maybe you do 2 scattergrams. Maybe sometime you do 3 with whole different structure methods. But you come up with a scattergram and you go, okay, that feels about right. Next thing, you're going to do an outline. You literally take that scattergram. See one of these things? You're going to make it point number 1, perhaps. This thing, point number 2, point number 3. If you ever wonder how many points you should have in a talk, make it 3. Make it 3. Not 5. 5's too many. 7's too many. 2's not usually quite enough. 3, really nice number. If you can give a talk with 3 major points, you're great. Now, when you're doing this outline, the first thing you should do also, should think about a piece of string. A piece of string has a beginning, and it has an end, and it has a middle. So we're going to have 3 points in between. We're going to have a point, support, 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 point, support, 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 point, support, support, support. At the beginning, you're going to have an opening. At the ending, you're going to have a closing. Real simple. By the way, and you're also going to write the first sentence down, because getting a speech started is the hardest thing. You ever see anybody ever come up to give a speech and they go, have the first one written down? That's the first thing they hear. That's the thing that sets the attention. Your last sentence, good idea to write it down too. Then you know how to get off. You know how to end. So okay, very simple. Jesus, I said 1, 2, 3. 1, an opening. 2, a middle. 3, a closing. That's 3 things, and then 3 things in between. It's always 3. By the way, it's always 3. You might want to do a script. At this point, you might want to take this and actually script it out. And if you are the kind of person who likes to have a script, great. Maybe you don't need a script. I would recommend at first to actually script it out. Now, the next thing you say is, well, what am I going to do when I give that speech? Am I going to read that script? Not recommended. Not recommended. If you're a politician who has to say exactly the right words, maybe you're going to want the speech written down. But what you really want to do is take that script and turn it into some note cards. So you want a card that has your first sentence written down, first card, the last sentence written down on the last card, and your main points in between. And you're actually going to start with that card, and then what you're going to do is you're going to look at the cards while you're reading the script. And you're going to read the script and look at the cards, and you're going to go do that once. Then you're going to probably do it twice. You're going to do it a third time. Then you're going to put the script away. You're going to start looking at the cards and say, okay, can I give the speech from the cards now? All right, you got that? Real simple, right? You just go through it a few times. If you're good, then you actually get rid of the cards, you get rid of the script, and maybe you make one card that you bring up with. Usually I forget the facts and figures. So a couple of facts, a couple of figures, first sentence, last sentence. That's it. It's actually very simple. Look at this. You do a scattergram. You do a mind map. You do an outline. You set up some note cards. And then you know what you do? You practice, and you practice, and you practice until you own the material. That's it. I give you a formula for giving a speech. Mr. Toastmaster.
And now I'd like to introduce Marina again to do an evaluation of Elena's speech. Marina.
So you heard Elena Ciriello's icebreaker speech. Icebreaker speeches typically are the first speech that anyone gives in Toastmasters. And generally, it's about a topic that reveals something important about you. Maybe it's biographical, or maybe it reveals your values. Elena chose to tell us a story about her friend Barbara, because by telling the story about Barbara, it revealed some of Elena's most deeply felt values. Telling a story is one of the most effective ways to be effective in a speech, in fact. So Elena hit that one right on the nail. I can also tell you that from her very first speech, Elena has had an incredible amount of confidence and poise. She is from the Czech Republic. She's been in this country for 13 years, but she already has a command of the language that is incredibly commendable. She also was already practicing a lot of the techniques that we learn in this Competent Communicator manual. She used gestures. She uses her voice in different ways. She is able to make eye contact with everyone. Her stance is confident, and she was already quite an accomplished speaker. I have heard this speech now for the third time. Her speech has an effective opening and closing, and in the middle, she sandwiched in a lot of what her values were surrounding her relationship with Barbara. I also liked the fact that she repeats certain phrases: cold, rainy day, cold, metal chair, and so on. 2 weeks ago, I heard her repeat this speech so that I could prepare a bit of an evaluation for today. And there were just a couple of things that we thought she could do a little bit better, a little bit of constructive criticism. First of all, her voice is here and here as far as volume. I would rather have it be here and here. I think today was a bit better, but it could still be improved a bit. It could be that some of your more silent vocalizations might not have been heard in the back. The gestures I thought were good. You were really forced to stand here at the microphone. So I felt that the gestures were just fine and they were what they needed to be. Also, from her first speech, Elena has not used notes whatsoever. This speech is one that most listeners can also relate to. So all of us have lost an important person in our lives at one point or another. Sometimes we only recognize their importance to us in retrospect. So thank you, Elena, for sharing your friend Barbara with us in such an eloquent way. Mr. Toastmaster.
And now I will do an evaluation of Mark's speech. Mark, that was your 5,001st speech. And it was indeed very good. Obviously, the subject matter was something that I think appealed to everybody here who's interested in Toastmaster. And for those of us who are Toastmasters, this is the perennial question of what am I going to speak about? How do I do it? How do I write a speech? Your presentation was very nice. I noticed you have a lot of good hand gestures, but they're not gratuitous hand gestures. There's not a lot of stuff with hands that a lot of times they're amplifying what you were saying. Sometimes they went along with facial expression. Very nicely done. You have terrific vocal variety. You started right out with that, with the variation in volume and the up and down. And I also liked your visual aids. I thought that was excellent because they told us what you were talking about. They were very clear and they stood alone. They weren't just a PowerPoint presentation with the quotes saying what you're saying at the same time. They were really useful, and it's a good tip of having something that's handheld that can be done even if the projector goes out, there isn't a projector, there's a power failure, all these kinds of things. So I commend you for that. You had a very clear structure. It was very well developed, and you used one tool very nicely, and that was when you were saying 3 points, and you paused after that so that it really sunk in for us. And the one comment that I would have to possibly improve the speech is to have a few more pauses. You have a tendency to pack so much information in less than 7 minutes here, and you got it all in, but it was very fast. And in a Toastmasters meeting, we try to stick to the time, so we can't just say, okay, this is going to be a 20-minute speech. And sometimes that might mean just condense it down a little. But a very informative, very nicely delivered speech. Thank you very much. Now, while we've been talking, we have what we call the ah counter. And at our regular meetings, we actually have an ah counter and a grammarian who, at the end of the meeting, guess what? They tell you just how bad you've been. And there is no more effective tool for curbing those ums, ahs, and so's than knowing that you're going to be called out for it. I'd like to introduce Joe Ripley, who was our secret ah counter today.
You're all naughty. You all had some ahs and ums. Rachel, I didn't hear any. Marina, I didn't hear any. Eleanor, I didn't hear any. Mark, I gotcha. 5. R and ums. And you said gotcha. Jonathan, I had 1. Jonathan used a lot of ands to connect his sentences instead of making that pause. This is kind of fun to do, and what's really fun about it is when you yourself, who have gotten up and had many meetings, they get you for 5 or 6 or 7 or 10, and you say, did I do that? Yes.
And now I'd like to reintroduce Marina for a final wrap-up.
Yes, I'm going to be very brief because we're at question and answer time. And by the way, Mark, fantastic. He wanted 10 minutes. We told him we can't give you 10, so he did it in 7. I just want to mention we have materials here. As you probably all know, 2 clubs are represented Jonathan and Mark and Jill's Portsmouth Club, and the three of us are from Exeter. We have name badges on. Feel free to ask questions. Exeter materials are right here. Please feel free to take anything. There is a business card attached to every single piece of paper here. So there's also a mailing list. If you would like to be on our email list for meeting announcements, there's one mailing list here for Portsmouth and one for Exeter. Please sign it, but I understand Bobby is also going to share all of your addresses with us so we can email you, and you can let us know if you're interested in coming, sitting in on a meeting, and finding out what Toastmasters is all about. So thank you so much, everyone, for attending, and shall we open it up now for questions? And Jonathan, maybe you want to come up here too, and
Can I add something? Sorry. Our challenge to you as well is to use this
Yes.
at some point in the day. Your instructions were
Pellucid.
I figured.
Yes, Scott.
So how many speeches do you normally get through, and how many attendees do you have at each meeting?
Attendees can vary a lot. Jonathan can address that with the Portsmouth Club. Our meetings, the very lowest attendance I can remember having was about 6. That was in the summertime, a lot of people on vacation. And the largest might be as many as 18 or 20, but typically probably about 12. And for anyone who's afraid of public speaking, the beauty of Toastmasters is you can come and give a word of the day and be done in 1 minute. And that gets you up here, it gets you comfortable, and it will help with the poise and confidence. So Jonathan, your club, how many typically?
Yes, we typically have around a dozen to a dozen and a half people. We have a fuller membership than that, but it's hard for everybody to show up at any one time. We make allowance for 3 speeches. That's 3 prepared speeches, such as the 2 that you heard today. And then we also have opportunities, of course, as Marina said, all these other roles, the word master, the joke master, and we have what we didn't do here today. One of the most exciting things in Toastmasters and a really valuable skill is table topics, which is extemporaneous speaking. Someone gets up and asks certain questions. You have 1 to 2 minutes to come up with an answer of some cogency, even if it's a lie. You get through the 2 minutes. So there's room for everybody to speak at a meeting, but there are 3 prepared speeches.
Yes, in table topics, fantasy is welcomed. Other questions? Yes, Bobby?
Were the speeches that were given today shortened because of the time factor, or are the speeches that are given during a meeting as long as you'd like them to be?
Sometimes I've given some speeches as long as 18 or 19 minutes, but that was planned for in advance so we could fit it into our meeting time frame. We do try to begin and end on time, and it just so happened that time we only had 2 speakers, so it was fine. Elena, your speech was not shortened, right? No. It's the same length that was originally, and Mark, you did shorten your speech.
I'm not sure, yeah, but 5 to 7 minutes is the normal amount of time.
Yes, that's typical speech length in competent communication manual. Other questions? Yes?
Do the butterflies go away?
Well,
No.
mostly yes. I have to tell you, I actually love being up here. I love talking to people, and I especially enjoy helping others reach their goals. So one thing in these clubs is we don't just work alone. We are helping other people. And in order for people to really become confident with public speaking, the best thing I can recommend to them, talk about something you're passionate about. I lost my fear of public speaking completely when I worked for an organization as a volunteer and began speaking about their mission and about raising money. So speak about what you're passionate about, and the fear will go away because you are choosing to help other people and to help a worthy organization. In our case, Toastmasters is worthy, so we enjoy helping each other. It's a team effort.
Marina, maybe that's good for you? Nope. Butterflies have never gone away. 5,001 times. We have a saying, you never get rid of the butterflies, you just teach them to fly in formation.
I like that. That's great. How about you?
I'm with Mark on that one. And, you know, those butterflies, very strong, good wings. Let them pull you up there and give that speech.
Yes.
You can't go on a regular basis, like what if it's-
That's fine. We have members who can't make it all the time. And like I said, go at your own pace. That really is true. You got to take a month off. My dad was deathly ill last year, passed away. I don't think I made it for a month and a half. And when I came back, I was welcomed as warmly as when I left. So that is entirely expected. Things happen in life, and everybody understands that.
I would love to validate that because I go into the summer, I've been involved for 3 years, I love the club, I do a speech when I can, I'm not there for 2 months at a time. And they know that when you come back, it's all about timing. I travel, you can't be there. And I felt pressure at the beginning to do a speech like every month.
Oh.
It was never expected. I have done, I'm in my second book, and it is the best organization I've ever been a part of.
Great, thank you for that. Yes.
So when you do present, it's on your own accord. It's when you feel prepared to do it. You're
When
not
you feel
expected to
prepared.
present at every meeting or whatnot.
Now, if you've been a member for 6 or 7 months and you've come to every meeting, we might eventually say, is it Molly?
Yes.
Molly, would you like to maybe do a word master next time, or maybe give a prepared speech? So we might encourage you. The other thing we have is a mentoring program, very valuable, especially for people through their first 3 speeches, to help you maybe organize, prepare, think about a topic. And if you even want your mentor to listen to you deliver your speech, we're usually available to do that too. So another thing to consider.
What ages do you work with?
18 and over. However, Toastmasters does also have programs for young people, 18 and under. I think middle school and high school level, if I'm not mistaken. They do have programs for that. There aren't a lot of them around, but I know that materials and manuals and all of that exist for that age group. We have decided in our club we will welcome a younger person to come with an adult just once in a while, but in general, you have to be 18 or older. But there's no upper limit. That's the beauty of it. You can start at any age.
If I can just make a comment on that, if I've actually been looking for an opportunity to do the youth leadership program, because that's what I took when I was 10, and I would really like to do it again. I have not found a venue yet. So if anyone has any organization, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, anything like that, maybe who can sponsor that, I'd be more than willing to run a program like that, you know, no cost.
You
Okay,
need
no
a venue
cost.
or a group of people?
Group of people, venue,
Okay.
yeah, it's mostly a group of people who can do it. You know, 60-year-old guy coming up and saying, hey, send your kids to me for a Saturday, just doesn't work.
We have had some inquiries to our Exeter club about programs for young people, so maybe I should
Yes.
direct them your way from now on. Other questions? Yes.
At these prepared talks, people get to choose, I mean, is there a order that people are prescribed to undertake them? And I have a second question. Oop, let's get it.
Shall we
I
answer the
said,
first one? You want us to answer the
no,
first
I
one?
can only think about that. It has something to do with number 2, which is that we have so many people in business here, and one of the biggest struggles is to talk about our business in a way
Mm-hmm.
that we're letting people know what we're passionate about, and also gives people information should they need what we have to offer. So is one of the prescribed, or somewhere within the series, people can come and work with?
You can deliver a prepared speech about your business and what you do. We would all welcome hearing about that. I think there's a chapter in here, something like Persuade with Power. So you might want to persuade people why they should use your business, or what the need is that's out there. You do not have to do them in order. We recommend people do the icebreaker first.
Sure.
But then after that, I think I skipped to number 8 or 9, which was using visual aids, which I already do for my book presentation. So that one was an easy one for me, hard for some other folks. So you can pick and choose. Toastmasters actually recommends, I think, to go in order,
Yes.
but not,
Yeah.
But
it's
that's not
not
the topic.
absolutely
It's what you're working
necessary.
on.
Yeah.
So for instance, the first one is just get up and don't die. That's number one. Nobody's ever died that I know of. Number two, I think, is just organize your speech. Number three is vocal variety. Number four is add gestures. So the topic doesn't matter. The important thing is you're working on a topic, but you're also working on one aspect of speech craft, if you will. And you add everyone on, kind of like if anybody has read Benjamin Franklin's autobiography, how he worked on one thing, and then the next week he'd work on number one and number two, and the next week he'd work on number one, number two, and number three. That's basically the philosophy that's adopted.
And for each, Jonathan, go ahead.
I just wanted to add one thing there on, I believe it was Gail had mentioned an elevator speech, and Toastmasters belongs to you. There is the international organization, there's the hierarchy, but it's you, the members in the club, that make it your club, and it's your speaking that you're working on. So if there isn't, for example, in here something that says elevator speech, but if people in the club want to do an elevator speech, then we will have a session, a workshop session, and we've done that in our club for introductions, for elevator speeches, for brief bios. Specifically, make it your club. Get what you want out of it.
I want to add something to that, and that is we sometimes arrange different kinds of meetings. For example, if we find that a lot of people are having trouble with the table topics, you know, giving an extemporaneous little speech, and there's a lot of fear around that, we'll have a table topics meeting so that each of us gets to do 3 of them and get up here and just have fun with it and goof off and just get more comfortable with being up in front of the rest of the group. So if people all wanted to develop an elevator speech, that would be a great meeting topic. And also, at the beginning of our meetings, we always do a brief introduction, even if we all know each other. But to give our little elevator speech, that would be a wonderful meeting theme, because we usually hold themed meetings. Do you do that too?
Yes.
Themed?
Yes.
Perfect.
Right in alignment with that is you're an author. I'm an author. You know, we have other authors.
Mr. Curtis.
Yes. When we talk, we're also including the possibility that someone will buy our books. You know, so there's the back of the room. Can you create a topic theme for that so people can?
I gave a book presentation with slides of my family's World War II saga for, I don't know, is it speech number 8 or 9? Get comfortable with visual aids. But even if you don't need to show anything, you can give a speech about your book. Absolutely. Perfect topic.
I developed a new research program that I was trying to get people to subscribe to, and I actually practiced it on the club and got a lot of good. And I said, look, now I'm going to give the speech, and I don't want a formal one person telling me, but I want everyone to give me some feedback. How can I make this better? And it got a lot better as a result. And I had that little pitch. I went to a conference, and that was my little speech that I gave to everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
We have people also deliver presentations that they need to deliver at work to help us evaluate the speech, hone it, just get it as perfect as it can be. We sometimes do round-robin evaluations where we go around the room, everybody gives their input to a person's speech, rather than just one evaluator like I did for Elena or like John did for Mark. So it is very useful. Yes, Jill?
Talk about the sheet that we fill out where they can fill out their remarks about somebody who has spoken, the whole club can, and give it to them after the meeting so that they get, yes. What's that sheet called?
It's the ballot sheet.
Yes,
Yeah,
ballot
which,
sheet. You vote on who was the best speaker, who's the best table topics, and so on. You tear it off down at the bottom. This is also a place for you to evaluate the speakers and then pass it to them your own, and it's amazing what you get, different perspectives from different people.
yeah, some clubs do that more consistently than our club does. Every now and then, someone might do that, but not very consistently. Other?
Worry that your next meeting is
I think that's going to be our theme. No, I'm not worried. I think it will really be a lot of fun. And I hope that some of you will consider visiting our meetings. You're welcome to come, sit, listen, observe, and just see if you think it's something that might help you.
If you don't mind if I say, by the way, I believe that there are two programs that are excellent for public speaking. Right? One is the Dale Carnegie course, and if you've got an extra $4,000 or $5,000 and 6 to 8 in 6 to 12 weeks. I highly recommend it. It's wonderful. If you've got $100 a year to spend on Toastmasters, I think you'll get just as much out of it. You can do it at your own pace.
Yes, our clubs each less than $50 for 6 months in dues. And most of that goes to Toastmasters International. The space that we use over at Riverwood's beautiful state-of-the-art conference room with all of the audio, video equipment, we get that space for free. So the amount of dues our club gets is very low, which is why we brought the food today. How was it? I think I made 25 sandwiches, and I have so much more left. I bought way too much food, so come on over to my house, everybody. So, other questions? No. Want to really thank all of you for coming. So many of you have become friends already since our club joined the Chamber. A lot of you probably know that Elena is also a member of the Chamber, and we have a couple of others who have joined as a result of our membership here. And I want to thank the Chamber. I think the events here are awesome. The lunch and learn, but also the morning mixers, the evening events, really wonderful, and really enjoy meeting all of you. Please chat with us, fill out our mailing list, and take materials. Thanks for coming.